The idea that Israel shouldn't actually get rid of UNRWA for fear that something worse will replace it, the root of it has to be a problem with principled thinking. The Israeli military's reasoning seems to be that they need to keep this corrupt organization around even though they know it's acting against Israel's interests. The problem with UNRWA was that it, in effect, was being run on the ground by members of Hamas. This was ultimately a proxy, certainly in education and in schools, looking at UNRWA's vetting processes for their members of staff. They don't have them. There is no real vetting process at all to stop people from Hamas coming in. And these people are much more integrated into the population than people in the West would really like to admit. The philosophical problem has to be altruism, that people are uncomfortable with destroying UNRWA because UNRWA's ostensible aim, it is this charitable organization which people are claiming is indispensable to the humanitarian relief efforts on the ground. The New York Times refers to the aid as meager, but if the aid was so woefully insufficient, then the logical conclusion we have to assume is that it's being stolen by Hamas. And this further goes to the point that Hamas actually doesn't care about its own people, completely treats them as instrumental to its goals. And for people then to continue supporting UNRWA because it's charitable and we hold an altruistic standard is suicidal in the long run. The language was suggesting that the Israeli military was making the allegations against the UNRWA employees very cynically, and that it was coming in retaliation for the court case in the International Court of Justice, because apparently some of the lawyers on the South African side have referenced information from UNRWA, basically suggesting Netanyahu saw that the International Court of Justice was doing this and then found some information, or perhaps even fudged it, in order to get some revenge. Whereas actually this information has been coming out against UNRWA for a long time. And for the New York Times to be casting aspersions on Israel, their motivations are anything other than ordinary self-defense against an organization which is supposed to be on their side and yet which is actually undermining them, is just extraordinary. There is, I have to say, something so anti-Semitic about the continual suggestion that Israel is scheming, rubbing its hands, plotting to do things on bad faith. Whereas actually we don't see any evidence of that at all. When people talk about Israel, they can't seem to not be able to keep these tropes from leaping out of their mouths.